Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? So, we have some big Starfield news today. At long last, Starfield's first major patch is about to enter beta, and if you want to try it out, we've got details on that, as well as, well, everything that we know that's going to be in there so far. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so yeah, we've been waiting on this one for a little while now. Obviously, Starfield's been out for, what are we on? Just over 2 months, and this is the first major update. We've had a couple of small hotfix type things, but this is the big one. The patch is not fully out just yet. It'll probably be a couple of weeks looking at this. There's some really cool stuff in here. It's perhaps in some ways a tiny little bit anticlimactic. There seems to be some stuff that is not, at least in the patch notes, that I would really have liked to have seen, particularly pertaining to the outpost system. A lot of the stuff that I would like to see the most, though, is not going to be small fixes, so the fact that it might take a little while, assuming it happens, is not terribly surprising, but there is some good stuff here, including some stuff that we've definitely been after. So, let's have a look at these patch notes. Okay, so we've got the frontier there, and quite a nice little picture of a splash screen, as per for Bethesda. So, let's have a gander at these patch notes. Nice. So, the Steam beta is now available for you to opt in. So, first up, this beta is only available on PC via Steam. So, the simple reason for that is the infrastructure is in place to allow players to test this, whereas it's not really as available through other means, and there'll be a whole lot more setup. So, this way they can do a public beta test on it and get a lot more people to check it out in a manner that is actually practical. So, that's why this is coming down this road. So, the beta allows Steam PC players to try out our next update for Starfield in a separate beta version of the game before the update goes live for all Xbox and PC players later this month. So, if you would like to check this out, you go over to your Steam library, navigate to Starfield, right-click on Starfield, select Properties, and in the pop-up window you'll see Betas, and down there you can opt in to the beta. And you then have to wait for the new build to download, which will take a hot minute, I am sure, given this is not a small game. And basically, this will copy over your characters, so you'll be able to play with your existing characters in the beta build. However, any progress made in the beta build will not transfer over to your live version of the game until the update actually goes across. After that, you can bring it across, I think, if you want to. Hey, so just a quick update from the future here, as I didn't express this very well the first time around. The basic way this update is working, this beta, is that it will switch over your existing version of the game to the beta version of the game, much like an ordinary patch in terms of updating the version of the game. However, obviously, it's switching it to a non-live basic version of the game. So you will have your characters available in the beta branch if you want to do that, and you can swap back to the current live version from the beta version if you want to. You basically do it through the same system, just selecting none instead of the beta branch. However, characters that have advanced in the beta will not work in the base game, from the sound of it, until the update goes live, or unless you switch back to the beta. So, if you are going to do the beta, make sure you back up your save first before you download and switch over to that, just so that, worst case scenario, you can jump back to where you were before you started the beta. If you want to switch back, maybe back up your beta save as well, and then you can kind of pick it up. But it depends on sort of whether or not you think you'll get ahead of where you were, I suppose. But yeah, just a little let you know. It's basically switching on to the new version of the game early, and it will affect your saves a bit, so I would go ahead and back up, just to cover your backside, as is always the wise way to go, you know? Anyway, back to it. Anyway, what's actually in this here update? So, top of the list, we've heard about this already. Really happy to have this. Definitely something the player base, particularly on PC, has been yelling about, and that is NVIDIA DLSS support on PC. So, this is a PC feature. Only really affects people who've got NVIDIA hardware. Not quite sure what the balance is these days between NVIDIA and AMD hardware. Actually, I think the lean is slightly towards NVIDIA, but there you go. So, this update introduces NVIDIA DLSS support for our PC players. Compatible graphics cards can now use DLSS Super Resolution, Deep Learning Anti-Aliasing, DLAA, NVIDIA Reflex Low Latency, and DLSS Frame Generation. Please note that while frame generation is active, VSync must be toggled off to see the benefit. We're working automatically to adjust this setting in a future update, so you're going to have to adjust that manually. You're going to have to turn your VSync off if you want to use DLSS. Once this update goes out, later on down the line, that'll be the default. If you enable DLSS, it'll switch the other thing itself, the VSync. So there's a whole load of fancy stuff in there that ultimately means low resolution upscaled to whatever your screen resolution is, so that you have better frame rates, in short. Definitely more than welcome, and hopefully it'll make the whole thing just look a little bit smoother as well. So can't wait for that myself. Looking forward to having the benefits of this, which there isn't an actual release date on this, and the short reason for that is basically there isn't one available yet. They haven't decided on. Looking at the contents of this patch, I don't imagine this beta period is going to be terribly long. I wouldn't expect much more than about 2 weeks, probably, before this patch comes out. This is wild speculation on my count, and a hunch based on sort of the way things run with other Bethesda games. At best, educated guess, but I don't think it'll be a long one, so we'll see. But I would guess a couple of weeks before the patch actually comes out. Not actually going to do any major tests on it myself, because when you look at the contents of this update, it kind of does what it says on the tin. There's nothing that really is particularly advantageous to me to go through all of that download stuff and to show you these little features. I can talk about them, they'll either do what they're meant to do or they won't. It's kind of simple as that, really. So, another big feature that carries over from Fallout 76 that has been requested a lot for Starfield is, captioned "Let them eat" here. By popular request, we've added the ability to ingest food and drink items upon finding them in the environment. You can enjoy those chunks immediately or save them for later. Choice is yours. So basically, you walk up, the tooltip will pop up on screen, usually just says pick up. It'll give you an option to pick up or probably press and hold, because that's usually the way they do it, in order to consume it directly from the world as it is. Pick it up and eat it. Kind of like an apple. So, that means if you actually want to take the advantage of it, get a little health boost or whatever other buffs immediately as you're going without having to lug stuff around in your inventory or faff around looking for it. That's it's just a quality of life change. It just smooths things down. It seems like you can see why they didn't worry about it initially. You can also see why players, especially from Fallout background who've got used to that feature, will be quite happy. It just smooths your movement through an environment. It's a nice little touch. So, that's the major stuff. Now we get on to fixes and improvements in terms of performance, stability, gameplay, graphics, and quest fixes. This list, well, you see all of it on screen about now, is not as long as I would have liked for 2 months in. On the other hand, as you'll see in a minute, there's some generalized headings here that basically mean the stuff behind the scenes is a lot of little changes that take time to do and a lot of back-end stuff. Some of the descriptions here are kind of vague, and they do cover a breadth of stuff. So that's, as always, not the most helpful way to do the patch notes. On the other hand, diving into the nuance of game development and explaining every functional bit of tweak behind the scenes is also not particularly helpful to 90% of us at least. So, it is what it is. Anyway, let's dive into this. So, performance and stability fixes up first. Definitely craving those. Smoother performance is always welcome in any game. And there's definitely headroom for that in Starfield. So, they've addressed a number of memory-related issues and leaks. So, you may well be aware of this, but in case you weren't, over an extended period of time when the game is running, if you're playing for a few hours, the performance will steadily degrade because of a memory leak, which essentially means your graphics memory or your RAM just basically fills up and can't do what it needs to do, effectively. I'm sure there is more to it than that, but it does slow the whole darn thing down. So, a couple of PC-centric fixes. They've added some GPU, so graphics processing unit performance optimizations, that will be more impactful on higher-end cards. Those of you who got big beefy machines should see some more performance improvements, which is always nice. And they've improved a renderer threading model, improving CPU usage, most notably on higher-end systems. So that tends to be quite where the bottleneck is on a lot of stuff with Starfield, because this game is very, very CPU intensive, a lot of moving parts, items that can move around the world. You throw a grenade and everything flies around. That's quite CPU intensive to process. And also the people walking around in cities and all that stuff. So hopefully that'll smooth all that out a little bit as well. And then we've got, as I just mentioned, various stability and performance improvements. About as uninformative as you can get. but I suspect we don't want the nuance anyway, if we're really, really honest about that. But yeah, stability, performance, great. Gameplay changes. They've added the ability to eat food placed in the world. Yep, cover that one. Adjusted stealth to be a bit more forgiving. Not had a lot of play with that at the moment, but stealth gonna be stealthier. Cool. Fix an issue where Andresia's head would permanently stay cloaked. The mental image of that is quite hilarious, but yeah, good. Fix an issue that could prevent players from firing their weapons. Glad I haven't seen that one. Fixed issues where some NPCs could be seen not wearing clothes. Fix an issue where already in-progress skill checks could stop progressing after reaching a section at the very end of the game that I'm going to obscure for you because it's a non-context kind of spoiler and you can kind of work out what it is. So if you haven't got there, then I'm sure you prefer not to have the spoiler. So if you have got there, you'll figure it out. Fix an issue that could temporarily prevent opening of the inventory or saving after the same end feature. Fix an issue where mouse movement could be choppy on PC. Fixed a rare issue that could cause the home ship to be lost. Ooh, that would be horrible. And fixed an issue where the ship services technician might be missing. Curious as to why, but good. They should be where you'd expect them to be, which is always good. So, scrolling a little bit. In fact, don't really need to do that, do we? Graphics. We've got fix an issue with how ambient occlusion appears in ultra-wide resolutions. You'll either know what that is, or it won't affect you, I guess. Optimized initial shader compilation that occurs on startup. So, you know, should be into the game a little bit faster. Always nice. Added the ability to adjust brightness and contrast in the display settings menu. I think there's a good few people will be happy about that one. Added the ability to adjust HDR brightness provided the system supports it. Xbox and Windows 11 only. Okay, that's kind of... I wonder why that doesn't affect Windows 10. I guess there's an operating system shortcoming there that prevents it. Curiously. Addressed a number of materials that could sometimes present an unintended pattern under certain conditions. So, stuff that occasionally looks weird shouldn't look weird, I guess. Fixed various visual issues related to new FOV slider options. So those were added in a hotfix a few weeks ago to give you the ability to adjust your field of view. Obviously, it makes things go a bit weird, so yeah, I wouldn't encourage you to rush towards changing that, but you know, the game is meant to look a certain way with a certain field of view. You change it, you end up with things being weird. But yeah, hopefully some of those issues should be at least abated somewhat after this update. Improved the appearance of eyes on characters in the crowd. Okay, can't say I was looking that closely at their eyes, to be honest, but cool. And addressed a number of minor visual issues relating to lighting, shadows, terrain, and vegetation. So vague. This sounds small and inconsequential, but could potentially cover such a massive breadth of stuff in that one tiny little line that I kind of don't know what to make of that, other than generally things should look a bit better. How broad it could be, I mean, that could be massively wide across the whole game and have taken a massive amount of time to do, or it could be a small thing that just affects a few areas. It's a bit vague. I'm guessing it's somewhere in between the two, to be honest, because that's pretty much always the case, isn't it? So, quest fixes. There's a whole bunch of quests here that obviously had fairly substantial bugs. I know of a bunch of other quest bugs that need fixing that are not on this list. Whether they will be added later, who knows? More likely they will probably pop up in a future patch on down the line, and there will undoubtedly be more. I'm going to run it on a limb purely and guess that the next major patch will probably arrive towards the end of January after this one. But this one first. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So, all that money can buy. I'm about to do that quest, actually. Fix a rare issue where players couldn't sit during the negotiation with Musgrove. Blast Zone. Fix an issue where hard rocks that need to be cleared out by players will not appear on Mr. Tate's land. So he is the realtor, the estate agent in Aquila City. If you haven't figured out where he is, check out my 2 builds on the houses that are available in Aquila City, because you buy them from him. Yeah, I'll link them around. They're quite fun. Echoes of the Past. Fix an issue where Griloba Queen could sometimes not be reachable during the objective. Secure the shuttle bay. So, yeah, that was a fun fight. I do remember that one, but yeah, that would kind of scupper things if, boss at end of quest is not available. And Eye of the Storm, remember that one as well. They fixed an issue where players' quest progression could potentially be blocked due to a missing docking prompt. It's a little thing, But yeah, it requires you to dock with a ship. That's kind of fundamental to the whole darn quest, and if you can't do it, problematic. So yeah, good fix. Grunt work. Addressed an issue where progress could appear blocked if Supra et Ultra was completed while returning to the lodge during High Price to Pay. So where 2 other quests interacting blocked progress in a third. That's weird. And I can imagine that was a pain in the backside to figure out exactly why those were interacting. That's weird. Yeah, it's stuff like this that makes me really glad I don't have to fix this sort of stuff for a living. I don't envy that particular trawling through to find bugs like that and find the point of intersection in order to repair that issue. Yeah, I don't imagine that was fun. Anyway, no sudden moves. Fix an issue that could prevent the entrance door to the Scow ship from being opened again. Operation Starseed. Now, I've done this one, and this is not the issue I was hoping they would fix, but future update, hopefully. They fix an issue where the key that is needed to exit the facility, if you're there, if you know, could sometimes not be present. Yeah, that would be problematic and definitely block progression. Or at least be inconvenient anyway, I would think. Sabotage. They fix an issue where David Barron could potentially not be found by players. Short-sighted. They fix an issue where players could rarely become control-locked while speaking with Vlad. That's a very annoying bug when it crops up. I've seen it in other games and it's, yeah, aggravating. And in Heart of Mars, fix an issue where players might not be able to mine the Heart of Mars. Okay, so there we go. First big patch. Considering it is Bethesda's first big patch for Starfield, 2 months on, there's a lot of things under here that are cool. There's a lot of things that are very, very short entries that almost certainly involve a lot more work than the entry kind of conveys. So I suspect that's why this seems kind of small in a way, and not particularly profound, despite the fact that we've been waiting a couple of months for it. So there's definitely stuff I would have liked to have seen here. I would have liked this to be in a more substantial patch. I suspect part of the issue here is the DLSS support. Bringing that in has probably involved a considerable amount of work, also with an external company, NVIDIA. So, yeah, I'm guessing that working on this has probably taken up a chunk of time and resources. Obviously, they will have fewer people working on bug fixes than other things. They've got undoubtedly a whole bunch of DLC coming down the road, as well as other stuff, I'm sure. They're working on making the Creation Kit 2, I'm guessing it's going to be called. The modding tools that will be available for Starfield in the new year at the moment. So it's basically a whole piece of software designed to allow you to manipulate the engine that they need to make as well. So that'll be on the go at the moment, as well as all these fixes and stuff, which, they take time to find and nail down. But, yeah, pros and cons. I would have liked to have seen a whole bunch of other stuff in here that is not present, particularly relating to the outpost system. There's absolutely nothing here about the outpost system, which is the one thing above all else I would like to see, already being worked on and expanded on. But I'm guessing future updates will be the ones to watch out for there, because a lot of that stuff is substantial and quite fundamental shifts. Most of this stuff is a little bit more focused that they're adding at the moment, so I can kind of see why some of the other stuff maybe take a bit longer to do. But there we go. I will keep you updated on release dates when we get one and what's going on with it, because, it will be welcome insofar as it goes. We just kind of wish it went a little bit further. So, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you found this interesting and informative. Got a little look at what's coming up in the next few months. As I say, no date yet on this. We'll let you know when we know for sure. My guess is probably about 2 weeks or so. And subsequent updates, of course, I will bring you the information when we have it. So, if you guys would like to catch live streams or any of my other builds, outposts, or apartments and houses and stuff like that around Starfield, then do check that out. I'll link that up in top corner somewhere up here and potentially down below if I remember as well. So, do have a gander. There's loads of cool Starfield stuff, loads of cool Fallout stuff as well. If you're interested in that, do have a gander. Very much appreciate you checking out. And if you're interested in supporting the channel a little bit more directly, got social media links, merch store, and channel memberships all available down below as well. And I humongously appreciate the support. Massively helps out. Huge thank you to everyone who's done that too. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.